Good morning, everybody. How is everybody's Sunday? I'm just going to pin our topic. Jen Shah from the Real Housewives. Legal case background. Standard routine here. Sunday morning, we do this coffee and conversation, starting a little bit later than usual. But I want to know what's in your cup. If you're watching, feel free to comment. I'm drinking one of my personal favorites. It is a Brazilian brew, right here, locally brewed, flown in from Brazil, family-owned crop. And I don't like my coffee sweet. I usually like my coffee black if it's made correctly. And this particular coffee has a hazelnut, it's not milk, but it's like a hazelnut oat sort of milk. Very light, very nice. And, you know, I'm a huge hazelnut fan. As long as it's not overpowering, it's not too sweet, it's really, really good. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking this morning. What are you guys drinking? Let me know. Happy Easter to all of those who are observing today as well. Nothing like an amazing cup of coffee. Unbelievable. So let's talk about Jennifer Shah and what's going on. So first of all, I should say that I have not followed the criminal investigation as closely as probably many of you guys have followed. But I have broken down some new interesting issues that I found just while doing a little bit of research on, how did this case even start? The indictment that we saw, we all learned that went wildly public and was all over the news, all over celebrity gossip columns and so forth, was that Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith, her assistant, are being indicted on federal charges for being involved in this telemarketing scam. And the scam, if you haven't heard, allegedly has targeted people who are over the age of 55 and bilked millions of dollars out of them by selling them fake, business support services and fake business startup opportunities, what we call biz ops for short. And it was a gigantic scam. The scam ran across numerous states, so Arizona, Nevada, Utah, New York, New Jersey. And what is being described in this scam is that at the top was Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith. And as with most business opportunities, there's a web of companies. And these web of companies, they start with a lead list and they market to this lead list and question how this lead list came about. We don't know. Jennifer Shah publicly has told many people that she is an internet marketer, and that's my space. So that's why this is of interest to me. That's why we're talking about it here on this channel, is because I represent e-commerce entrepreneurs. I know all about business opportunities. I know how to run a legit call center. I know about internet marketing. I know about legitimate lead generation. And so for me, this is fascinating to see how this unfolds. I've represented numerous legitimate business opportunity owners, and it is a tricky business to be in as it is. And it is ripe with legal landmines, if you will. So coming back to it. So I started scratching my head because I saw on Tuesday last week, as many of you did, the U.S. Department of Justice issued this indictment and named Jen Shah and Stuart Smith. But if you look closely, this is a superseding indictment. So what that means is there's an existing indictment. And nobody that I saw, at least on the surface, was talking about what indictment this was superseding, meaning what is the underlying case. And the indictment also names as a defined term participants. So who are these other participants? Very, very interesting. And I think looking at that will help us digest what really happened here, what Jen Shah's role was, and what Stuart Smith's roles were, and the potential repercussions here. My personal take, my conclusion so far, is that this is much, much, much larger than what we understand at the surface. Because, again, looking at, if you understand internet marketing, if you understand lead generation and business opportunities, you're talking high volume. Usually the dollar amount is low, not always, but sometimes it's a smaller dollar amount. So, $25, $50, $100 as a one-time payment that you sell to people. In this case, it's a startup kit. And then you sell these ancillary services. And that's where it gets egregious, right? Where you sell some support service, or you might sell some sort of, like, for example, we're going to sell you this tax service, or that's part of what these people who were participants in the scam did. Or they're going to sell, web support services, which was, again, a scam allegedly to elderly people who bought into this business opportunity. So just to make it more tangible, let's say I'm selling you the opportunity to start your own e-commerce website. You know nothing about e-commerce. You know nothing about setting up a business. And as part of the scam, let's say you filled out a form. And again, we don't know where the leads came from. But just to recap what we know, she was involved in generating the lead lists and selling those lists to these call centers. And she was raking in a part of the revenue that was produced from these fake ancillary services. So just so you understand. Well, the question is, how did she get these leads? Were they legitimate leads? You can get leads from any number of sources in the e-commerce world, right? You create a landing page, you drive traffic to that page, and you have a box that says, for more information, drop your email or your contact number. And what was on that landing page, we don't know. But, again, if it was a legitimate e-commerce opportunity, you would say, learn how to run an online business, learn how to sell products online. Here's some free information, what we call a white paper, and you drive traffic using that white paper, and you get leads. And somebody typically will qualify those leads. But sometimes they're not qualified. Sometimes they're raw leads. You get a database of hundreds or thousands of people, and you take that list and you give it to somebody. You say, these are leads. Why don't you sell to them, and we'll come up with a fee split. So high level, that's what we're talking about. So I started digging because I'm super curious, because some of these companies are in Arizona. Some of these call centers and business opportunity operators are out of Arizona. So I was just curious. I'm like, do I know any names on this list? Being an Arizona lawyer, being in the e-commerce space, and I am still digging, and I don't want to say anything wrong, but the initial indictment, I'm looking at the court docket. So the docket is basically where all of the activity, the filings of a particular case happen, right? And so one of the parties, let's just go back. What I discovered was the following, that there is a case in the Southern District of New York with 10 existing participants. And those are the people that we are reading are defined as participants in the indictments later. So there's 10 people. And this case is known as the Shady case. Ironically enough, Shady is the last name of Anthony Shady. He's the first defendant that's named, Cheedie. Most likely, it's not by alphabetical order, most likely he was named as the first defendant because he had a significant hand in this. But just looking at this, there's a 12-page, it was a sealed indictment. Eventually, this was unsealed. I have access to it. General public should probably have access to it too. But it outlines the details of this scam, right? And I'll just read you a paragraph of this, or some of it, from at least 2012 to at least November 2019. The following defendants, right? So Cheedy, Chad Allen, Shane Hanna, Cameron Brewster, Kevin Handren, four other people, carried out a wide-ranging telemarketing scheme that defrauded hundreds of victims throughout the United States, many of whom, this is really important, many of whom were over the age of 55 by selling those victims so-called business services in connection with the victims' purported online businesses. So what were these business opportunities? Hey there. Thanks for joining. To perpetrate the business opportunity scheme, certain of the participants sold alleged services purporting to make the management of the victims' businesses more efficient and profitable. So let's focus in on that for a second. Let's focus in on that. So what is the reason why? Okay, you get a lead. You say, hey, you want to be part of this business opportunity. You want to be part of this, online e-commerce opportunity to make a lot of money. You're not going to be able to do it with what you know. I'm going to sell you coaching services. This is where you really catch. So you might get, let's say 1,000 people to sign up for your $100 kit. But that's not what you're after. You're not after just 100,000. You want to then upsell them according to any, business opportunity or e-commerce opportunity. This is typically how they work. They upsell you ancillary supporting services, coaching services, marketing services, tax services. That's what was done here illegitimately, and that's why it makes a difference. So what are they saying? To perpetrate the business opportunity, they sold them alleged services. Okay, including tax preparation. Boom. Website design services. Notwithstanding, and this is where it's gross, notwithstanding that many of the victims were elderly and did not own a computer. I mean, that's sinister. At the outset of the business opportunity scheme, certain participants employed by a purported fulfillment company sent the victim electronic or paper pamphlets or provided so-called coaching sessions regarding these purported online businesses. But at no point did the victims actually earn any of the promised return on their intended investment. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the criminal allegations, the indictment brought against everybody, right? So there's 10 existing defendants. Let's just make sure we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 defendants, plus Jennifer Shah from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, plus Stuart Smith, her assistant on the show, this reality TV show, that they had the intent, that they never intended for this to be a profitable scheme, that they knew their victims would not be able to benefit from this, that they sold basically snake oil. And it's crazy. The individual defendants that are named in the initial complaint that was filed in Southern District of New York, and this is filed back in 2019 of November, makes very detailed allegations. It says the defendants, for example, provided lead lists generated through a website referred to by defendant Brewster and other co-conspirators as the money-sucking website, MSW. You can't make this up. And it names two of the defendants. Chicacho and Minetto employed several salespeople who sold the so-called business services to victims of the business opportunity scheme and worked to prevent victims from receiving refunds on their investments. So when you call and you realize you've been scammed, you'd call into the call center or wherever, you'd say, hey, I want my money back. And they would actually have a team that was designed to rebut your demand for a refund. I gotta imagine that there would have been a ton of chargebacks. I've gotta imagine that there would have been plenty of business, Better Business Bureau complaints. This is crazy. Listen to this. When there were no more services to sell the victims as part of the business opportunity scam, and the victim had reached the maximum limit on their credit card, the participants, who are the defendants, were the 10 defendants that have been named in this complaint, effectively refinanced their victims' participation in the business opportunity scam into a new scam, capitalizing on the business opportunity victims' credit cards by falsely claiming that they would consolidate or settle the victim's debt in exchange for an upfront payment. Unbelievable. So you get what I'm saying. We've run up your cards. Let's say you had, a $5,000 limit. You've run up all these charges that you're sold in order to be a better business person, right? Hey, if you want to be successful in this program, buy my coaching service, buy my web service, buy my tax service. Oh, it's not working? No problem. Here's what we're going to do. You're out $5,000. No problem. Pay us another $500 and we'll call the $5,000 that you've paid, we'll call that a wash. What a scam. The perpetrators of the debt relief scheme entered into revenue sharing agreements with certain participants in the business opportunity scheme, by which the perpetrators of this debt relief scheme paid certain participants, again, these are the 10 indicted people, for leads based on a percentage of sales made to the victims. And this is where Jennifer Shah comes in. The new indictment earlier last week on Tuesday, March 30th, I believe it was, alleges that Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith were at the top of this, meaning that they were the ones who were designing the revenue sharing, the agreement, hence the conspiracy claim. They were the ones, Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith were the ones who were generating the structure for how, hey, I'm going to give you this lead. If you sold them $5,000 in bogus legal, in bogus support services, I want 20% of that. Alleged, that's the allegation that we're seeing. Certain participants, including Chad Allen and Shane Hanna, the defendants, also falsely told victims that the victims had qualified for a government grant, often in connection with starting a small business, and that the victims should purchase the business services offered as part of the business opportunity scheme. I mean, this is crooked stuff. And they said that purchasing this opportunity to be part of this grant would be a way to earn money while waiting for the victim's grant money to be received. In truth and in fact, no such grant existed. So here's where the government cracks into this, right? And this is where the first domino falls. In January of 2019, law enforcement apparently conducted a search of the telemarketing sales floor for two of the defendants who were employed at this call center, probably owners too. And during the search, they seized electronic devices. And two of these defendants actually tried to delete or attempted to delete data off those devices, essentially trying to distract the law enforcement officers or obstruct the investigation. And so there are actually charges for obstruction. Here's the wild thing. As far as I can see, at least 4 of these 10 defendants, 4 have pled guilty to this scam. Let's keep that in mind. Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith have pled not guilty to their involvement. 4 of the 10 that, as far as I can see, have pled guilty. Again, they're being charged with different things. It's not to say that just because allegedly Jen Shah and Stuart Smith sold bogus leads, that they were the ones involved in actually defrauding these elderly. But all directions point north towards this idea that they knew, Jen Shah and Stuart Smith knew this was a complete scam, that nobody was entering into a legitimate business opportunity, and that in fact they were just getting a cuff of the profits that were being generated from this widespread scam, selling people crap, stuff that is not even existing, making things up. Here's something else that I thought was interesting. Again, this is just stuff I'm finding now as I discuss this with you. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, brought an action in 2014. This is public information. June 24th, 2014, on the FTC site, I found this. Here's the caption. Defendants who allegedly took millions from consumers trying to launch or succeed in a home-based business settle FTC charges. Tax Club, that's the name of this business, or name of the, it's a DBA or it's the brand. Tax Club defendants will surrender $15 million for return to consumers. $15 million is what the Tax Club people are forking over. How does the Tax Club tie into Jennifer Shah and this indictment? I'll tell you how. One of the operators in this Tax Club is a guy. Let's just find his name. I recognize this name. This is crazy. Let's see. Here it is. Listen to this. I don't know that anyone's talking about this. This is just based on my research. Shane Michael Hanna, also known as Shane Michael Romeo. and American Business Builders, UMS Group LLC, United Merchant Services, Unlimited Training Services, Stephen Spratt, Universal Marketing and Training LLC, ENF LLC, doing business as Network Market Solutions. All of those people, those companies that I just named, all of them are banned permanently from working in any work from home opportunity. Michael Hanna, do you know why that name is familiar? Michael Hanna is one of the defendants in the first indictment that was brought that Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith were later dragged into. Does that make sense? So the investigators cracked Michael Hanna again, apparently. Because what I just read you from the FTC goes back to 2014, that they settled these charges. Apparently, from what it looks like, again, based on the allegations, Mr. Hanna didn't give up. He was continuing to run this. Again, allegedly. I don't know. I'm going off of this website, off the FTC site. FTC tends to be pretty darn accurate. Listen to this. Again, from the 2014 FTC settlement and complaint that was filed against one of the individuals who was also a co-conspirator in the Jen Shah scheme. Listen to this. The orders by the FTC impose a judgment of more than $5.4 million, which will be suspended upon surrender of certain bank accounts and real and personal property, including a 2013 Cadillac Escalade ESV. The full judgment will become due immediately if the defendants are found to have misrepresented their financial condition. Meaning, typically in most FTC crackdowns, when you enter into a settlement, you have to divulge your financial wherewithal, right? Because you're going to pay settlements back to victims of a fraud. And you're going to enter into some sort of stipulation that says, listen, I'm not going to do this stuff again. So at that time, there was at least over $5 million from this one operator to fork back into, the restitution that they would have to pay to these victims. And there's a lot of people involved in this. Again, this is how this kind of marketing works. Network marketing or lead gen business opportunity marketing works. There's a whole tree of people involved in this. And again, based on the indictments brought by Southern District of New York prosecutors against reality TV star Jen Shah and Stuart Smith, they're at the top of this, meaning they are the ones who structured, masterminded, created the fee agreements, the revenue agreements, and profited. Most importantly, they profited from what prosecutors say was a knowing scam. So I asked the question. If Jen Shah's sitting in front of me, here's my question to her. Hey, did you do any diligence on who this guy was, or Michael Hanna, one of them? Did you do any diligence? Did you just search who he was? To get hit with an FTC charge and settle it and agree to surrender $15 million. I'm sorry, but that smells bad. Even if you said, hey, maybe this person didn't know what they're doing was wrong. I mean, let's just make all the arguments. This defendant had no idea it was somebody else in the business that was running. Fine. Let's just give them all the benefit of the doubt. You still did business with somebody who clearly was defrauding consumers, essentially admitted it, and was ordered to pay back $15 million. And you are now running another scheme wherein you're profiting from this business opportunity. And this is one of the guys who's running the show with you, running this scheme with you. Come on. Did you not look this up? I found this in literally 5 minutes after doing some digging on who the other defendants were as part of this indictment. So here's my point with this. My point with this is that I think the scam goes a lot deeper than what we're hearing. We're just hearing headlines. Jennifer Shah indictment, Stuart Smith indictment. The dollars that are actually at play here must be tens of millions of dollars. And apparently there are some repeat offenders in this. Apparently. It's absolutely mind-boggling that, the scale of numbers that we're talking about. And this is kind of a lesson learned, right? When you get into an online business with anybody, when you have partners, I don't care if they're celebrity partners, they're influencers, right? People that we represent. you do your diligence. You do your diligence. You don't assume that they're legit just because they're the poster child of some program or they're a poster child of some sort of TV show. You scrutinize it. You hire an attorney to say, I need your help to piece this together, and I do not want my ass in jail. At the very least. I don't want to lose money, but at the same time, I do not want to be involved with people that are running a scheme. Don't you do that? Especially if you're rich to begin with. It just blows my mind. Here's a question from the Kempire. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining. Do you think she will take a plea deal? She entered a plea of not guilty. It's a good question. She entered a plea of not guilty. She's got great counsel from what I can see. I think that she might take some sort of deal if it involves no jail time, no prison time. Maybe she's banned. Like these FTC, crackdowns that we're reading here. I don't know if any of these individuals back in 2014 did any jail time. Maybe the DOJ entered into a deal with them that said, this is the order, pay this restitution back, and you're banned. And I think if she was offered something like that, I would probably take it. I mean, think about it. That's a slap on the wrist, considering the widespread nature of the scam, right? I think again, it's hard to say because there hasn't been a plea offered. But some egregious high millions of dollars in figures, in damages, in fraudulent earnings that we're talking about here potentially. Do you think her recent behavior on social media might hurt her case? Give me an example. I don't really follow what she does on social media, to be honest with you. I'm watching this more from a legal standpoint. But if you can give me an example. Give me an example of what she's done on social media. I guess the real question is whether Southern District will even offer a plea deal. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, interesting thing is she's in court saying that she doesn't own any real property. Apparently there's like a Shah ski chalet, this sprawling, beautiful mansion in a hilltop in the mountains, and she's claiming she doesn't own it. It's not hers. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just named it as a ruse to make herself look more wealthy. I don't know. But she's drawn some of these bank accounts, again, according to investigators, she's drawn hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars out of. And part of what she's been ordered by Judge Shine up in Southern District of New York is that she can't draw more than $5,000 out of any account other than to pay her lawyers. And I'm sure she's paying her lawyers a lot more than that. But if you have a comment on what sort of post she made on social media, I'm not aware of what she said. Here's another question. Will the victims of the scam get any of their money back? Investment back, excuse me. Great question. Love that question. That's what I'm most interested to hear. Again, I'm looking at one of the participants in the scheme, an FTC action from 2014, where this dude and his buddy club are essentially ordered to pay back millions, no less than 15 million to victims, which is great news. I mean, think about how widespread this is. $15 million, that means the dude had the cash or assets sitting around, can liquidate that and pay it back to known victims. So I really hope elderly, 55 and over, I mean, gosh, that just pisses me off to no end, that they get their money back and are made whole, at least in part. These are people who can't pay medical bills, people who end up filing bankruptcy. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Kylie. Hi, Kylie. Here's a comment. She's continuing to flaunt her wealth on Instagram stories, getting glam, claiming innocence, and saying she's going to keep filming the show. Oh, I see. That's probably in response to the question about what kind of stuff she's posting on social media. Yeah, listen, here's what I have to say about this. She wore like a mink or some kind of fur coat to the hearing. That's disgusting to me. I mean, you should look like you should have worn a suit or some sort of professional attire. Not flaunted, a $5,000 fur coat. That's obnoxious. And I think that's her personality. In my opinion, that's her personality. That she's very, very, again, you're a reality TV star who is all about glam. So that's a good point. Flaunting her wealth at the same time telling the judge I'm not a flight risk and I don't have the money. And, you know, apparently she surrendered an expired passport. The judge, I think, cut her some slack and said, you know, that I don't think you're a flight risk. You're a reality TV star, and you're only allowed to go to D.C., where your lawyers are, New York and Utah, and you can't leave the country, certainly, and you can't go anywhere else, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was pretty lenient, but the judge seems pretty reasonable, and so who knows what other facts were discussed that we're missing. But it's gross. I honestly, I mean, this is a allegation of conspiracy to commit, which means there was an agreement. So prosecutors believe either tacitly or expressly that they can show an agreement. Now, going back to this FTC case from 2014, where these scammers entered an agreement with the FTC, there are agreements in place. There's agreements in writing. And I'm sure this is how they learned about Jennifer Shah's involvement. See, now it makes sense. When we first talked about this, we were wondering, was there a mole? Did somebody rat Jennifer out? No, at this point, I'm pretty sure that they saw wires going into a company, or they saw documents or emails with Jennifer Shah's name on it, right? And when you have documents and things with your name on it, you're going to be dragged in. And we know that one of the 10 people who was indicted in the scam now recently in 2019, we know that two of those guys tried to delete data off of hard drives. They tried to hide information from prosecutors. So you wonder what got deleted. I don't know if that data was ever reconstructed, but there's a charge for obstruction. And it kind of makes you wonder, you know, how much they have on Jennifer Shah and Stuart Smith right now. How Jennifer Shah can play so confidently in the public arena to this point that was made earlier about flaunting her wealth. You know, how as a reality TV star you can be a part of the scam and just put on a smile and flaunt your money. It's sad. It's really sad. And so part of you wonders, hey, maybe she's innocent. Ultimately, she's innocent till proven guilty. There's not guilt by association. It looks very bad. Certainly looks extremely bad. You know, you're involved in a multi-state scam where some of the people involved who bought leads and sold services were known scammers. When I say known scammers, who entered into orders with the FTC to pay back, you know, 8-figure sums. How did you not know? That's one person that, I mean, I did some quick research before I jumped on this live, just because I was so curious. And I looked at the federal docket against one of these guys. I found a name and I looked at the related case and boom. I mean, it didn't take very long. So how is it, Jen Shah, again, if you're sitting in front of me, or Stuart Smith, how did you not know who these people were? Right? If the defense is, I had no idea that this was going on. I just generated the leads and I sold it to these people. And, you know, I have profit sharing. I had no idea. Really? You had no idea? Did you question how they were generating this money? You knew your leads were of a certain age, 55 and over, which makes this a graduated offense, in my opinion. And in the prosecutor's opinions as well. How did you not know? Right? This is not like a murder case where there's fingerprints, right? Or somebody sees somebody on camera leaving a residence, or there's DNA. This is a documents type of case. This is, you know, a financial fraud. So there's wire transfers, there's financial information, there's payments. And so over a period of several years, clearly, at least since, you know, January of 2019, when the first part of, you know, the first 10 people were indicted. Let's just see, when was this complaint filed? So November 2019 is when this indictment was filed. I may have said January. So, you know, over the course of a year and a half, prosecutors were sifting through data. Boom, here's Jennifer Shah. They found her name. They found something. Great questions. Keep the questions coming if you have them. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. One of these individuals, you know, again, I'm just going through the names of 10 of the other people who were involved in the first indictment. And I just plugged their name into Google and went into a FTC order that I found and found that one of these guys is a known scammer. Let's see here. Settlement order. Yeah, I mean, one of these, again, I for those of you who are wondering what might result against Jennifer Shah, I think one of the issues, if she resolves this and this doesn't go to trial, will be she's prohibited from any online sales. She's prohibited from lead generation. She's prohibited from a call center. This is crazy, but one of the related co-conspirators, let's just see, the Tax Club Inc., which was operated by, I think, Michael Hanna, right? This is based off the FTC's website. And he's one of the individuals that's named Shane Hanna. So it might be Shane Michael Hanna. I'm not sure. This is kind of on the fly. But there's an order against this dude and his company for $140 million. $140 million for a scammed work from home opportunity. How much did this scheme make? Just think about that. And this was going on for 7 years. You know, I'm going to continue to dig into this. I think it's extremely interesting to be at a celebrity status, you know, flaunt your money, be on a reality TV show, and, you know, stick this in front of people and engage in such a rampant fraud. It's just mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It hurts you to the core that these people were mostly elderly, right? Prosecutors say they're 55 and over. And that, you know, Jennifer Shah, according to her lawyers, according to what her plea was entered last week, that she is pleading not guilty to the conspiracy charges. I could see her pleading not guilty to actually defrauding people, but the conspiracy one is tough because, again, under the statute, conspiracy to commit a crime, you know, it's knowledge, it's an agreement, it's an understanding that you're assisting in an unlawful activity. So maybe, again, her argument is, you know, the argument at the criminal level, which has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's more than the civil conspiracy claim that could be brought, the civil claims would be a preponderance of the evidence, which is a 51% likelihood based on the facts, whereas beyond a reasonable doubt is exactly what it sounds like, that a juror, you know, if you're a member of a jury, that you would conclude that there is no doubt that Jen Shah intended to defraud these people, and that she knew that these participants, the 10 people that are named in this indictment, were running a fraudulent scheme. Can her lawyers prove that there was no intent to defraud? Can they prove that she had zero knowledge? Depends on what the evidence looks like. Here's a question. It's interesting or comment. It's interesting that she continued to engage in the alleged fraud even after the 2019 convictions. Right. So the indictment, let me see if I can't pull it up again. Yeah, March. So the superseding indictment that includes Jennifer Shah, very, very interesting, says from 2012 to at least March 2021 that Jen Shah was involved in this. The initial indictment against Anthony Cheedy, Chad Allen, Shane Hanna, and, you know, 7 other people, says from 2012 until November 2019. So agreed, you know, after these, you know, the allegations are brought, think about that. One of the people who's buying your lists, Miss Shah, at least one of these persons is being brought under the microscope by the U.S. Department of Justice. And 4 of those individuals pled guilty. If I didn't say that before, pled guilty. And you are still running your show. You know, you're still not your show, but you're running your lead generation business, not caring. You are on TV, boasting your wealth. You are continuing, from what we understand, until the indictment was brought, you're continuing to operate your lead gen and service and derive profits from the participants in this scheme. I question that. I question it. And again, I'm just raising the question. I'm not saying that this is an open and shut case. I'm not saying that she's 100% guilty, but it just does not pass the sniff test. If I'm a lawyer advising Jennifer and I saw this and one of my buyers of a product or service who I know I am making money from pleads guilty to fraud or is involved in an investigation by the DOJ, I am pumping the brakes hard. I am going to address this with them. I am going to cut them off. We don't know if she did any of those things. In fact, it looks like she may have done the opposite. Good questions. Let me know if you have other questions. As this story unfolds, if any of you watching this now or later have comments or questions, send us a direct message, reach out to us, watch us on Instagram. Let me know if there's anything that we can do. Again, what I'm doing here today and what I found just earlier this morning when I was drinking my coffee, I was curious. I said, we've seen this, the superseding indictment. Let's go back and look at who these other people, the 10 people who are being indicted along with Jen Shah, so a total of 12. Let's see if they have any backgrounds that we need to be aware of. And boom, the first one I looked at, Anthony Shady, is involved in a major operation. Chad Allen, Shane Hanna. These are not names that are completely unknown to the DOJ. Do you think Jen is the big fish in this scheme, or are the Southern District of New York looking for bigger fish? I think prosecutors are always looking for bigger fish. Always. What we don't have in front of us is the stack of documents that the prosecutors and investigators absolutely have in order to bring these claims. What we don't have are, the dollar figures. Again, we see what was going on historically. So based on the allegation in the indictment against Jen Shah, she is alleged to be the head of the head, meaning she's the mastermind on the revenue share, how money would trickle down. Again, she may not have been running the call center. She may not have written the scripts to push these people to defraud elderly people. She may not have been the one who was coaching people on how to get customers who've purchased these fraudulent services from getting refunds. She may not have been involved or even known about those things. But she sold lists and she had a profit-sharing plan with all of these companies according to the allegations. And I have to believe, if you're a prosecutor with this detailed of an indictment, after already having gone after 10 other people, after already having 4 of those people plead guilty, I have to believe that they have documents that show that she's caught red-handed in this. And so I think the legal question will be, how much did she know? How much did she know? And I would have to believe that after this, there might be some civil claims. I have to believe that there might be some civil claims. Jen has confirmed that she still will film the reality show. Do you think legally that is wise? I think it's the dumbest decision you could ever make. If Jen Shah is my client, I am telling Jen, shut your mouth, hide your jackets or sell them, and sit cool, unless you want to be behind bars. But again, I don't know what she knows. I'm not her attorney. Attorneys and clients get the benefit of privilege and confidentiality. We'll never know what she's discussing with her lawyer. Her lawyers help develop a strategy. We don't even know if it's against her lawyer's wishes. But if she's saying she's going to continue the show, maybe she's hard up on money. Maybe she needs the money for the legal fees. Hopefully she's trained like a monkey not to talk about her professional life or not to flaunt her money. And that's my fear. If you're a reality TV show and this is coming down, get the hell off TV. What are you thinking? That's what I'm thinking, right? And if you have a legitimate lead generation business, focus on that. But again, maybe the counter to that is, hey, my client did nothing wrong. She has nothing to worry about. There's nothing she can say or do that's going to get her in hot water. And so, no, we're fine with her being on TV. I would be telling my client, stay away from reality television, particularly the context. We're talking about a Real Housewives show. People flaunt their money. People say stuff loosely. You know, we only see what editors and producers of that show actually want us to see. Who knows how much B-roll and background and things that get cut that we haven't seen that may have juicy nuggets in it. Who knows? Who knows? I can see you're going against legal advice. Yeah. I would agree with you. And again, I don't know her. I'm not a huge, reality TV show watcher, but the little that I've seen, I tend to agree with you. So if you've just joined us, or you're hearing the tail end of this, just to recap, we're just going through some of the legal background of this case. There are 10 other people that were indicted in November of 2019. A complaint was filed by the DOJ against 10 individuals. 4 of them have pled guilty. 4 of them have pled guilty. And these are the people who are participants. They're defined as participants in the indictment that names Jen Shah and Stuart Smith. And at least one of these, one of the conspirators has a history with the FTC where he got hit with a $140 million order. It's a stipulated order. The Tax Club Inc., and I think it was Shane Hanna, and is repaying, $15 million to victims. That's one person who's among a group that was operating something who is now also operating in cahoots, with Jen Shah. Again, just trying to connect the dots. You're correct. The comment was innocent. You said innocent too. I think you meant innocent till proven guilty. 100% agreed. 100%. That's our justice system. And I agree with that. Everything we're talking about is just based on what the documents that we're trying to piece together based on history, what's going on and some background. And again, I've said this before. I think the dollar amounts are very, very, very high. I think the cuff of what she was making from this business, it's got to be just a ridiculous amount of money. 5 million, 10 million plus. I would not be surprised. I'm talking about money that went to her personally, the scale at which this was operating. But yet to be seen. I appreciate everybody joining us this morning on this live. Again, we'll post this on our Instagram page and our YouTube page. And we'll continue to talk about this. And we will, see what else we can unearth in the history of some of these co-conspirators and keep you guys posted. Until then, thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day.